What happens when a football club trades its soul for a new home? Highbury was more than concrete and grass. It was Arsenal's heartbeat. You could feel the vibration of every Henry goal and hear the fans breathe with every pass. Then came the Emirates. Bigger, shinier, quieter. For years, Arsenal's roar faded into silence. But from that silence came the Ashburton army, a new generation that refused to let the club lose its voice. The roar is back, and this is how it happened. Stick around because by the end of this story, you might just find yourself hitting like and subscribe without even realizing it. For 93 years, Highbury wasn't just Arsenal Stadium. It was home away from home. Some of you might never have seen it, but those who did still talk about it like a sacred place. There was something about that ground, something alive. Every brick, every seat, every echo carried a story. You didn't just watch football there, you felt it. Under Arsene Wenger, that feeling became something else entirely. The football was poetry, the atmosphere electric. It was the place that gave us the famous Invincible squad that went through the league unbeaten and lifted the Premier League trophy right there at Highbury. What truly made Highbury special wasn't only the silverware, it was the closeness. The players and the fans breathed the same air. Thierry Henry once called it his garden, and you could see why. The pitch felt tight, the walls were close, and the energy was personal. When Henry sprinted down the wing or Bergkamp killed a pass midair, you could almost reach out and touch the greatness. And Highbury had its moments. Beautiful, chaotic, and completely unforgettable. The penalty mix-up between Henry and Perez. The day broadcaster Jimmy Hill left his seat in the crowd to act as a linesman because there was no one else. It was imperfect, but it was perfectly Arsenal. But all good things have to come to an end, like they say. And for the Arsenal family, that day came on the 7th of May 2006. Arsenal's final game at Highbury. Henry scored a hat-trick against Wigan and kissed the turf one last time. The crowd stood still, knowing they were watching the end of an era. When Arsenal moved to the Emirates, it felt right on paper. Bigger stands, more money, a new era. But as the club settled into its new home, one question lingered. Had Arsenal just left their soul behind? Because what came next would change everything. What happens when home becomes history? When comfort gives way to ambition? Arsenal found out in 2006. Leaving Highbury wasn't just a move down the road, it was a leap into a new identity. The Emirates was sold as the future, bigger, richer, more glamorous. A place that would finally put Arsenal shoulder to shoulder with Europe's financial heavyweights. On paper, it made perfect sense. Highbury held just 38,000 fans, while the Emirates could welcome over 60,000. The new executive boxes and club level promised revenues that matched the entire old stadium's income. It was genius financially. Arsenal had traded nostalgia for numbers. Emotionally, it hit hard. The magic didn't travel. The fear opponents once felt at Highbury began to fade. Arsene Wenger, the man who led the move, later admitted, "We left our soul at Highbury," and he wasn't being poetic. The Emirates at the time was beautiful, modern, but it was quiet enough to film a nature documentary. And that's when the joke started. Highbury had history. The Emirates? It had a reading section. When Arsenal first moved to the Emirates in 2006, people didn't call it the library for nothing. If you ever watched a match there in those early days, you'll get what I mean. The place was stunning, huge, shiny, modern, but the atmosphere was quiet. Too quiet. You could literally hear the sound of someone closing a water bottle. The nickname stuck because compared to Highbury, the energy just wasn't the same. And the numbers tell the story. Under Arsene Wenger, Arsenal's home win rate at Highbury was around 70%. After the move, that number dropped closer to 60%. The fear factor that once made North London a nightmare for visiting teams started to fade. And it didn't help that every other club seemed to have something that gave them life. Anfield had the anthem. Old Trafford had the theatre. Even smaller grounds like Selhurst Park had noise that could rattle the cameras. Arsenal had the beauty, the football, the legacy, but not the voice. For years, that was the missing piece. The Emirates was a masterpiece without a melody. But in 2021, something started to change. A new generation of fans decided they'd had enough of the silence. They wanted to bring the roar back. They called themselves the Ashburton Army. The Ashburton Army didn't just pop up overnight. They came from a place of frustration. After years of hearing people mock the Emirates as the library, by 2019, a group of young Arsenal fans had had enough, so they decided to change things. Their goal was simple: bring that fiery, European ultra spirit to North London. The flags, the drums, the endless chanting, the huge tifo displays that take over stands, they wanted all of it. They wanted Arsenal to feel alive again. Even the name, Ashburton Army, was chosen with intention, paying tribute to Ashburton Terrace at Highbury. It wasn't just about making noise, it was about restoring the soul of the club. On match days, they marched together to the ground, leading chants through megaphones, banging drums, waving flags, and unveiling massive banners. What's cool is that they actually work with the club. The group initially started at the back of the block, but later requested to move to the front to be more visible and audible, to be closer to the players. Arsenal gave them a section at the lower tier of the clock end in front of Block 25. Their dedicated allocation consists of about 100 seats, though the group has grown to nearly 200 members, making tickets for this section highly sought after. You can't miss them, a bunch of supporters in black jackets with AA19 stitched on the back, a nod to the year it all started. And here's the thing, the all-black look isn't just about standing out from the sea of red and white. It goes deeper than that. It's a calling card from ultra culture. You see it everywhere across Europe, from the Curva Sud in Italy to Eintracht Frankfurt's Ultras in Germany, and even PSG's collective Ultras Paris. The idea is to move as one. No bright colors, no individual flair, just a uniform wall of black. It creates mystery, intimidation, and most importantly, unity. For the Ashburton Army, that same philosophy applies. The Emirates feels different now, louder, prouder, and more alive. Especially since Arteta came in and got the football flowing again. But it hasn't all been smooth. Some fans think their displays are over the top or even a bit cringy. There have also been controversies with reports of tragedy chanting that got some members banned and leaked messages from old group chats that caused a stir. The club's relationship with them has had its rocky moments too. Arsenal once cut their ticket allocation and even rejected one of their Champions League tifo designs, refunding over £12,000 in donations. For some, it showed how fragile the balance is between the club and its most passionate supporters. But maybe the tension says more about Arsenal as a whole, always striving for perfection, always on the brink, yet somehow always falling just short. Because in many ways, that's been the story of modern Arsenal. So close, so good, but never quite enough. The real question is, how long can a club live as eternal second before something finally gives? There's no doubt that in recent years, Arsenal have lived on the edge of greatness, so close that you can almost feel the frustration in every chant of the Emirates. Since Mikel Arteta took charge, the Gunners have gone from rebuilding to becoming serious title contenders again. But the story keeps ending the same way, second place. The 2022-23 season felt like Arsenal's rebirth. They led the Premier League for 248 days, the longest any team has ever stayed on top without winning it. But as spring hit, City did what City always does. They chased, they caught, they crushed. Arsenal finished on 84 points, their best since the Invincibles, and still came second. Then 2023-24 rolled around, sharper, stronger, even beating City at the Emirates with the best defense in the league. But Pep's men didn't blink. Arsenal ended with 89 points to City's 91. And then came 2024-25, the season that was supposed to break the curse. Depth, consistency, everything looked right, until one bad month in spring turned it all into déjà vu. Second again, third straight year. At this point, even rival fans don't troll, they just call them Eternal Second FC. And that is where the Ashburton Army comes into the story. For a club trying to turn fine margins into triumph, atmosphere matters, energy matters. The Emirates has long been criticised for being too quiet, too polished, a far cry from the thunder of Highbury. But since the Ashburton Army's rise, there has been a change. The flares, the chants, the visual unity. All of it has brought back a sense of intimidation and belonging. Maybe that is the final piece. Maybe to finally bring the Premier League back to North London, Arsenal needed more than tactics. They needed heart, voice, and chaos. All that noise hasn't just lifted the mood, it has lifted the numbers too. Before they really took charge of the noise, Arsenal's home form was just fine. From about 2018 to 2021, they averaged 40 points a season at home. Decent, but nowhere near intimidating. By the 2022-23 season, Arsenal's home tally jumped to 45 points. A year later, it hit 47. That's no coincidence. That's what it looks like when a stadium turns into a fortress again. Suddenly teams weren't just facing Arsenal's football, they were facing 60,000 voices that refused to go quiet. And the players definitely feel it. Captain Martin Ødegaard summed it up perfectly after Arsenal's 4-1 win against Newcastle in the 2023-24 season. In a letter to Arsenal fans that season, he wrote, "The atmosphere here for the Newcastle game was just incredible. It really was something else. I knew you would all bring the noise and you didn't disappoint. Coming out of the tunnel, seeing all the flags, scarves and colour, then during the game the support we had was amazing. And we really needed it because I can tell you, we felt tired. It made so much difference and you saw that in our performance." When the captain himself says the fans helped them push through fatigue, you know the crowd's doing something right. And that's mostly thanks to the Ashburton army. If you scroll through TikTok or Instagram after an Arsenal home game, you will see them everywhere. The drums, the flags, the smoke, and the chants that seem to shake the camera more than the stands. It is impossible to miss. You should check it out for yourself. The atmosphere looks more like something from Serie A or even South America's ultra scene than what you usually get in the Premier League. It is raw, loud, and coordinated, and it shows how much the culture around Arsenal has changed in the last few years. The clips don't outshine the match highlights, but they hold their own. The views, the comments, the reposts all prove that people are paying attention to what happens in the stands as much as what happens on the pitch. The Ashburton army have managed to create a new kind of presence, one that exists both in the stadium and online. It has given Arsenal fans around the world something to connect to, something that feels alive even through a phone screen. So here's the question. Can the Ashburton army be the spark that finally ends Arsenal's eternal almost story? Highbury gave us legends. The Emirates gave us frustration. But this version of Arsenal feels different, doesn't it? It's loud, it's proud, it's trending, but in an age where football lives half on the pitch and half on social media, maybe chants are just as important as signings. Maybe Arsenal don't just need goals, they need noise. Should Arsenal go harder on atmosphere? Cheaper tickets, fuller stands, game days that feel more like Buenos Aires than North London? Because if football brands can flourish as hard off the pitch as they do on it, maybe that's how you finally turn passion into silverware. Let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive.